Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe P. Zappia, and today we've got a Dynasty startup mock for you. Superflex, of course, because that's what all the kids are playing nowadays when it comes to the Dynasty League. So today, we thought it would be fun to do one of our own using our Draft Wizard software, which is about as good as it gets. And if you want to start running some of these simulated drafts or do a draft with friends, head over to our mock draft lobby over at fantasypros.com/draft wizard. The Draft Wizard is the greatest mock drafting tool in the history of tools. And trust me, I know a lot about tools. And today we've got an all-star cast. We've got Pat Fitzmaurice joining us, Derek Brown, the King of Bros, aka D-Bro, and of course from The Athletic, Jake Ciely. And Jake, I know you've got a busy schedule to keep here today, so we're going to keep this moving for you. I know after the show, you've got a return to do at Home Goods, and I think you have the Wordle to play also. I know how much you love the Wordle. So, Jake, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today on a Tuesday afternoon.
You're burying the lead, Joe. As long as we've known each other, I'm actually running out the door to drive to North Carolina for a banquet with the girlfriend. So that the fact that there's something girlfriend related is we haven't talked since. How do you bury the lead?
Well, this is what happens. You end up, well, I didn't bury the lead. I wanted you to kind of bring the lead up because you're right. This is what happens. You get a girlfriend, then you don't talk to your friends anymore, finally, after all these years. And I guess here's the biggest
I still talk to my friends.
Oh, so I'm not a friend.
Shots fired.
So here you go, Ciely. So you've been a top 10 ranker Fantasy Pros so many times over the years. But yes. Jake, now that you have to somehow balance all the fantasy football stuff with relationship stuff, are you concerned that could be in jeopardy your top 10 ranker status?
I'm dropping out of the top 10 for sure. I send this trophy back. That's right over here. It's going to have to go back to the Fantasy Pros mantle over behind you. But no, like priorities are priorities. We've already had the discussion of what my life is like in the football. She hasn't seen it yet, but she's prepared for it.
Well, look, if she's made it with you this far after a couple weeks, I'm as
shocked as anybody.
Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm grateful to see you. As everybody knows, Pat Fitzmaurice is also the co-host of our Dynasty football podcast over here at Fantasy Pros. Him and Scott Bogman have amazing guests. And if you haven't already subscribed to that, make sure you do. It's on all the podcast platforms you could possibly find out there. It's a Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast over Fantasy Pros. Pat, I know you guys have had some fantastic guests lately. The draft is now over. We're looking ahead. So this is right in your wheelhouse. I hope that the podcast has been preparing you for all of this draft we're going to do today.
It has been, and I've really got no pressure, Joe. Even if I screw up this draft, like my wife is not going to walk out on me. Jake, on the other hand, could get dumped if he has a bad draft. So, really, he's the one under the gun here.
That is true. That is true. Derek Brown, you've got so many kids, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're just in it for life now. So you're not. I mean, but this must.
She's got no choice. Antonio Cromartie.
He's not quite Cromartie-esque, but he's on his way.
Not quite. I mean, I was working on it. Things and stuff can't happen anymore, thankfully. So no more life surprises. But here we are.
Wow. So you had that third round reversal
Things and
done?
stuff
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Things that I didn't think were going to get brought up on this show, but
wow, that was amazing. And that might be my favorite moment. And of course, if you want to relive all these moments and watch this draft live, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. If you're not, please subscribe and be a subscriber to our YouTube channel. It's a fantastic situation there for all these amazing videos. All the podcasts are on there. Every bit of content we've got is on our YouTube channel. And make sure when you subscribe to the YouTube channel that you also go ahead and make sure that you like the videos, because it's very important, and click that little bell for the notifications when you know every bit of content that drops. So today, once again, we're going to be doing our Superflex Dynasty Startup mock draft. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep like I said, Jake's got a long drive ahead of him, many things going on. We're going to keep the benches a little shorter. You can always ask us more questions or make some comments in the YouTube channel. I know how you love to comment in the YouTube channel. So let's kick things off here. I have the one pick just because it's easier for me to do, to obviously host the show. So obviously with a lot up there and available, and I'm going to go ahead and just so you know, boys, once again, this is the 30 seconds here for the start of the draft. And I'm going to go ahead and go with Josh Allen here. He's the 1-1. in the dynasty startups, I wouldn't go with Jonathan Taylor, even though it's tempting to take the best running back. Running backs are typically not good investments. So just so everybody knows, I am the 1-1. Jake is the 1-5. And then Derek Brown and Pat Fitzmaurice are 9 and 10. So Debro and Pat should absolutely be sniping each other. So the first pick is off the board. That is Josh Allen. The draft wizard likes me. It gave me the big guns over there. It flexed the muscles. After that, we have Jonathan Taylor go second, Patrick Mahomes go third, and then fourth overall, Jamar Chase, who I absolutely love in all dynasty formats. Jakey, you're up for the 105. Where are you going?
Yes. I actually, I'm glad that Jonathan Taylor went, because that left me with one of my potential options as quarterback if the third quarterback didn't go, which is Justin Herbert, which is where I'm going. If Justin Herbert didn't go, then it was going to be Jefferson or Chase. I would actually wait before I got to Murray or Jackson, and that would be the only two that I would jump ahead of him. I'm with you. I wouldn't even take Taylor there. Taylor's behind them. Taylor's at 8 for me. But I will take Herbert at number 3, the youth and the ability. I got to get that quarterback there.
Was Jefferson under consideration for you? I know he went right after. That was somebody I would consider.
Only if Herbert was gone.
Still go quarterback. Only if Herbert was gone. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Next, Najee Harris goes off the board, followed by the 108 pick, Joe Burrow, which puts Derek Brown up for pick 109.
In Superflex formats, and considering how the board fell, I'm going to go quarterback. That's usually where I stand. So give me Lamar Jackson here at the 109, and we'll see what quarterbacks make it around the turn.
All right. So Lamar Jackson, 109. Pat Fitzmaurice, you're up for the next pick at 110.
I'm not going to get too out of line with another running quarterback still on the board. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray right behind Debro.
There you go. Kyler Murray. So I don't know if he's going to hold out for Pat's team or for the Cardinals. We'll see. I know Pat's in big-time contract negotiations with Kyler right now. Cooper Kupp goes 111. Then at the turn at 12, Swift and Stephon Diggs. Interesting. No quarterbacks taken there. Tyreek Hill at the 202. Pat Fitzmaurice, you're back up for 203. McCaffrey, Williams, Pitts, all still on the board.
Yeah, I am going to go with another quarterback here. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. Obviously the concerns about a possible suspension are there, but, hopefully you hope it's not a season-long suspension. And if there is something, it's 6 games tops or whatever. But whenever he's played, he's been pretty consistently a top 5 fantasy quarterback. So pretty good value to get him in the second round of a Superflex.
Absolutely. Look, it's Dynasty. So look, even if he has a suspension, we're talking long-term looking. So at 204, Derek Brown, where are you looking long-term for your second pick?
I mean, if he didn't take Deshaun Watson, I was going to take him. And usually how I start a lot of these Superflex drafts, because regardless of how the draft plays out, I always preach this. In startups or rookie drafts, that's usually the cheapest spots to get your quarterbacks. Like, I'm not trading for quarterbacks in Superflex. So give me Dak Prescott, he's in my third tier. I have him as a top 8. He's QB 8 in Dynasty for me. So, I mean, I'm happy to take one of the quarterbacks that would have fallen here. Like, I would even have gone Jalen Hurts at this spot, even though I'm absorbing more risk.
I
mean, look, they're back to back. They're back to back in my Dynasty rankings. So I considered it.
All right, so Ciely's got 20 seconds before we get to his pick. Christian McCaffrey goes next, then CD Lamb, Joe Mixon at 207. Jake, who'd you take at 208?
Yeah, I would have taken him at 206 because that's where I have him, and it's Kyle Pitts, who you're talking about getting the future franchise number 1 tight end of all time in fantasy. He's going to be the Travis Kelce for the next 10 years, and I just got him at 206. I didn't think he was actually – I was worried that Derek was going to take him, so I'm happy that he got there. The only one that would have been in the conversation was Javonte Williams before Melvin Gordon came back, but because Melvin Gordon came back, then it's Kyle Pitts.
All right, fair enough. After Kyle Pitts, Dalvin Cook, A.J. Brown, Javonte Williams goes right before me, which pains me. A few big-time quarterbacks left on the board here. Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford. It's a matter of, do I want to take my second quarterback here with the guy that I know and I trust? He's in a new environment. I think he's got a lot left to play for. Still some unknowns there when it comes to Lawrence and Lance for this kind of investment. I'm going to go ahead and take Russell Wilson with one of these picks just to be a little safer. And now I've got some wide receivers on the board. Devontae Adams, Debo, T. Higgins. Wondering about that status there with, of course, what's going on with some of the other players here with Debo Samuel especially. So in this one, even though he's a little older, I got to say, I feel like there is an opportunity here for Devontae Adams to have a second life in his career here with Derek Carr. He's been a fantastic wide receiver for quite some time. And I know we're getting to that push age limit, but I just don't like investing in running backs. And to me, he's clearly the best wide receiver left on this board, in my opinion, the most accomplished. And I like his situation. I think I know what it is for the next 2 to 3 years. And that's what we're trying to build. So give me Adams as well. So I'll go Wilson and Adams. Next goes Mark Andrews, who is also under consideration, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler. So running backs are flying in round 3. Jake Ciely, are you buying into the running back run?
No, I am not. I'm going back to quarterback. And I would love to go with Jalen Hurts, who I do love. But my issue with him is he can be great in fantasy this year, and the Eagles could still change their mind next year. I don't trust the Eagles, despite the fact that we've given Sam Darnold 8 billion opportunities to do anything, and we're ready to write off Jalen Hurts going into his second year starting. Whatever. That's a whole conversation for another day. So I will mention the other one that you already said, Trevor Lawrence. I know his job is safe. People have already written him off after a terrible year under Urban Meyer, and forgetting the fact that they were generational talent, the best since Andrew Luck, the best since he's still really good, and he's only 22, and I know the team is not turning away from him for at least a couple of years.
You better make the pick, though. Okay.
I did.
Just want to make sure
I got
you
it in there.
don't miss your pick. That's
Yeah,
all right.
I
Just
got
want to
it.
be
I
sure.
got it.
Don't want to cut you off, but
Don't tell me what to do.
Auto
No,
pick.
but the Trey Lance thing too is like I don't know when Trey Lance starts, and if they trust him, I don't know when Justin Fields, and they gave him no opportunities to succeed with drafting a 25-year-old slot rookie. So what the hell?
Hey, man, in all fairness, if Wilson wasn't there, Lawrence was the chance I was going to take. Again, I just think I still buy into the talent. I'm with you. Derrick Henry at 306. Then T. Higgins goes 307. Debo Samuel at 308. Great value potentially there. Derek Brown back on the clock at 309.
I'm divided right here. I could go Brees Hall. I could go DK Metcalf. I think I'm going to go with DK Metcalf at this spot. I lean wide receivers a lot of times in these startups a little bit more aggressively because we know the shelf life, but also regardless of the bad quarterback play this year that maybe we get, maybe we don't, we don't know who's going to be under center week 1. DK Metcalf's got a lot of outs. He goes somewhere else. He's still 24. The ceiling's elite. Like we know what we see out of DK Metcalf. So I'll just take the value here.
All right, that is a value at 309 with DK for sure, even with the slightly unknown quarterback future, at least it seems like as of today, Drew Lock. We'll see what tomorrow brings. 310, Pat Fitzmaurice, you're up on the clock with 30 seconds.
Yeah, and one of those outs for Debro is that it's going to be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud throwing to DK Metcalf next year. So I would have probably taken him if Debro had let him go. Instead, I am going to take Brees Hall. Sort of get that anchor running back thing down for the Dynasty startup. I tend to fade running backs a little bit and go with wide receiver heavy builds in my startups. But it is nice to get a guy who is this sort of prospect profile in round 3. A guy who's really young, who was a prolific producer in college, who tested off the charts at the combine. A lot to like here, even though he hasn't proven it yet in the NFL. I still feel pretty confident with this investment.
All right, Pat Fitzmaurice takes a leap of faith with Brees Hall of the Jets at 310. Antonio Gibson goes at 311. Then at the turn, Jalen Waddle at 312. 4-1, Travis Kelce. Still no quarterbacks for the team at the bottom in the 12 spot. Travis Kelce goes to start the 4th round. Then Cam Akers 2nd. And then 3rd, DJ Moore to Pat Fitzmaurice. So talk to us about DJ Moore, Pat.
Yeah, so torn between a couple of receivers here, but I went with Moore. I mean, a guy who at such a young age has produced in some pretty fierce headwinds as far as what his quarterback situation has been. Has not really put the touchdowns up, but has put yardage up reliably and has, really established himself as an alpha receiver. So you hope the situation and the ecosystem get a little better for him in Carolina, but I'm pretty sold on the player.
All right, sold on the player. Derek Brown, who are you sold on with the 4th pick in the 4th round?
I'm between a few different spots. I could go running back here, could go wide receiver. I'm probably going to lean into the wide receiver position and take a guy that I'm a little bit above consensus in dynasty circles. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman. I think that he easily can gain equity this year. I think he's going to get peppered with targets. We've talked about this at length on the podcast before, so I won't spend too much time there. But I think that he could enter and where I have him ranked as a wide receiver 1 dynasty right now.
Yeah, Michael Pittman, 404. Then Alvin Kamara goes in the 5th spot. Trey Lance, 406. Then 407, Leonard Fournette. Jake Ciely is up with the 408.
Yeah, Sophie's choice over here. You're gonna pick my two favorite children over here is Saquon Barkley and Deontay Johnson. I love them both. I was hoping one would go off the board so I didn't have to make that choice and shun my other child here. But I might as well go with the fact that look, like Barkley won't have a lot of tread on his tires next year. He's still uber talented. We at the end of September, everybody was like, "Oh God, he's back! Look, he's back!" And then a roll-up freak injury. I still believe in the talent. I still believe Barkley, even on potentially a new team, could be talking about next year inside that top 5 again.
Unbelievable. Your love for him never ends. It's so beautiful.
It doesn't.
It's so romantic. That's why you finally found a girl, because that romantic in you is still alive.
It is. There you
David
go.
Montgomery at 409, J.K. Dobbins at 410, Justin Fields at 411. That puts me on the clock, and there's many insights available on the Draft Wizard. I've got to make my decision. My queue is full. I've got a fair amount of wide receivers I like, but I think what I'm going to do here is go ahead and potentially look at least one running back. Kenneth Walker is out there, and I know they want to run the football. Travis Etienne is out there also. I'm a big fan of Travis Etienne, and I think healthy, you're going to see big things for him. So I'm going to go ahead and take the plunge here with Travis Etienne. There's a lot of wide receivers I still like, and I think because the depth is there, I'm willing to wait just a little bit longer. I could go with James Conner here. Again, the injury track record, not great. Or I could look to the future with somebody that I really believe in. Now, Draft Wizard's probably not going to like that I do this, but I really believe in A.J. Dillon being that next guy. I think the Aaron Jones era is coming to an end. I think the A.J. Dillon one is beginning. So give me the back-to-back running back. So I've started with the two quarterbacks, Devontae Adams, and then Etienne and my boy there from the Green Bay Packers, A.J. Dillon. Deontay Johnson goes right after, so Jake almost had his cake and ate it too. Terry McLaurin, 503, and then 504. We got Mike Williams from the Chargers, which puts Jake back on the clock for 505.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I already have his teammate, but I have him as my 20th ranked Dynasty player. I believe Drake London was the most talented wide receiver in this draft class. I do understand he's probably got bigger bust potential than even Olave, but definitely Garrett Wilson. But I don't want to double up here. This is also, looking towards next year, the new quarterback, as Pat mentioned, either of those two, maybe even Van Dyke. There's going to be another quarterback there if, potentially Ritter doesn't pan out. But I am going with talent. I am going with Drake London. And, we'll call it a trade league. Maybe I can make a trade down the road.
Yeah, let's do that. If things don't work out, we'll just pretend to make trades. I was strongly considering Drake London too. And look, I think it's a good investment here in the 5th round. There's no doubt about that. And who knows, maybe Roddy White, Julio Jones will all be there for you later. You could just keep investing in Falcons. It's just a great organization. Chris Godwin goes at 506. Rashad Bateman at 507. I was also considering. He is no longer on the board. 508, Elijah Moore. Derek Brown, a couple of your favorites are gone, including Drake London. You are so close.
I mean, look, if Drake London or Rashad Bateman hadn't have gone, they wouldn't have made it past me. But I'll go with another guy that I'm high on. If it's not this year that he breaks out, it's going to be next year. We're talking about a revamped offense. I'm just going to go with Kenneth Walker. I'm not afraid the fact that I went DK Metcalf and Kenneth Walker. If we think the quarterback upgrade is coming, then these are two guys that are going to either hold or gain their value if the offense improves in the upcoming season or next year.
All right. Very good pick there, Kenneth Walker. Pat Fitzmaurice up next, and he was ready. He did not waste any time. He ran that card up to the commissioner. Pat, who'd you take at 5'10"?
Yeah, so I took Garrett Wilson, and suddenly I find myself overloaded with Jets, having a jet-heavy core with Wilson and Breece Hall. I would have preferred to get Elijah Moore there. I like Elijah a little bit better, but Wilson's got I think he might be the safest out of all this year's draft picks. So, and then I'm going to double up on rookie receivers with Treylon Burks.
Look at you.
Yeah, so I know there's been some shade thrown at Treylon Burks in some corners. I think he's still a pretty fantastic prospect. And I know he was used in a really gadgety way, Derek Brown, as you are quick to point out. But, dude, the Arkansas quarterback situation was not good. They had to do it. They did not have a quarterback who could reliably deliver him the ball downfield. So they kind of had to scheme touches to him. And, not that the ability to be used in a Deebo Samuel type of way is a negative thing in the NFL. I mean, maybe we're trending that way with Deebo and Cordero Patterson and some of these guys. So
All
I'm
right.
pretty happy with
Very
the pick.
good. So the Dynasty podcast host takes 2 rookie wide receivers back to back. After you took Wilson, Jalen Hurts, and Aaron Jones went. Then after that, I have to wait for a second and stop scrolling. Jerry Jeudy went at 601, and Cortland Sutton, they went back to back before you took Burks. Derek Brown, who did you take at 604?
So, I mean, with my wide receiver core looking like I've got a pretty good established base here with DK and Michael Pittman. Going to one of the last top running backs that I think is left on the board that I feel good about his 2-year outlook, and we've seen what he's done in the workhorse role. I'll just take the advantage and take James Conner here as he falls farther than he should have. I would be grabbing him in the 5th round in most startups.
All right, there you go. Another fantastic value there for Debro. Looking ahead here, let's see. After you took James Conner, George Kittle went right after. He was in my queue. So was Amari Cooper, also in my queue, also gone. Then Matthew Stafford, great value at 607. A lot of football left. And Jake at 608. You sniped me, brother. Talk about your pick.
Oh, well, I'm glad I sniped you because I got the alert that I got an award for the reach alert. And so we're on the same page. Jamison Williams, man, like you have the conversation. I don't think he was, but if you want another person in the conversation for the highest ceiling in this draft class, it's Jamison Williams. And there's talk already. He could be ready for week 1. And for everybody, even if Jared Goff is the quarterback in 2023, he made 2 wide receivers have 900, 1,000, and 1,100 yards 3 years in a row. Both of them did it together every single year. Interestingly enough, it was 900, 900, 1,000, 1,000, 11, 11. But anyway, point being, I'm not worried about Jared Goff being the quarterback with Jamison Williams.
No, I'm not either. And part of the reason I waited on wide receiver and doubled up in the running backs is because I was hoping Williams would make it back to me and I was going to take my favorite talent. But of course, Jake took him right before. After that, Josh Jacobs went, Eli Mitchell, Keenan Allen, who I was considering. I think there's still a lot of football left in that dude also. But instead, I'm going to go young. I've already got the older wide receiver in Devontae Adams. So I want these 2 guys to learn under the tree. Chris Olave being one of them and the other Sky Moore, who I have a lot of high hopes for. And yes, I got the reach alert there, Jake. So you and I just got yelled at by the draft wizard, and I don't care. Go ahead and get your guys. And to me, it's all about taking the best assets you can. Forget positions. It's nice to have positions if you can do it, but take the best assets, and then you can make fictitious trades like Jake was talking about earlier.
Sky Moore wasn't going to make it past me, so I hate that pick for you, Joe.
But I will say, I'm glad you said that is because I still only have 1 running back. But at this point, he's 28. That's not a death knell. Mike Evans still being on the board at 705. I'll round out my 3rd wide receiver. I need a veteran presence. That's what it is. Mike Evans, Drake London, and Jameson Williams. I need him to coach him up. That's really what I need. But no, Mike Evans still there at that pick. I couldn't pass on it, even though I feel like I'm going to be a little thin at running back at this point.
Well, look, I understand why you did that, but also the only reason I didn't take Mike Evans with my 2 wide receivers is because after this year, I assume Tom Brady's moving on to Fox and just broadcasting. And after that, I don't know what's going to happen there potentially. So it's that unknown that makes it a little hard in Dynasty to invest. Devontae Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Rodgers all went before Mike Evans to Jake at 7.5. Then at 7.6, Marquise Brown, 7.7, Darren Waller. Then TJ Hawkinson at 7.8. Derek Brown, you are on the clock for 7.09.
I'm going to go with the guy that we talked about. He has dark horse wide receiver 1 upside because he's going to be fed volume. He's Chicago's version of Deontay Johnson in the sense of what we can expect. Maybe stat line. I'm going to go Darnell Mooney here.
Another guy from the Joey PQ, Darnell Mooney, 7.09. If Fields makes that progress, who knows the upside he might bring. Pat Fitzmaurice, you're full of upside. Who's your pick at 7.10?
Well, Debro helped narrow things down for me a bit, and I think some people are going to believe that I'm a fish for making this pick, but this guy is still young. His situation has just gotten infinitely better. It's Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy who produced at a precocious age and has fallen off basically due to injuries and the dustiness of Ben Roethlisberger the last few years. And he's not going to have to worry about that now. I know he's a little bit of a one-trick pony as a route runner, but I still believe in the player, and I think he's going to be a really good fit for Kansas City.
All right, there you go. So Juju goes, and after that, 7-11, Amon-Ra St. Brown, followed by Derek Carr. I was hoping Carr would last to me. I'd like him as my 3rd QB. It was not meant to be at 7-12. Starting the 8th round, Michael Thomas, great boomer bust value there. Then we have Allen Robinson at 802. That's a questionable pick from Team 11. Pat Fitzmaurice, you're up next for 803.
Yeah, continuing to load up at wide receiver here. I think I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk, who I don't know. Didn't smash last year. It was kind of Debo's year, but I still like the guy a lot. I like what he did 2 years ago. He was solid last year. Still young, a lot of upside, and pretty bright future. So continue to build that wide receiver room.
All right, 804, Derek Brown. Ayuk is off the table. So who are you going to next?
I'm going to take the upside pick here, and I know I'm in between two different guys. It's either going with the veteran value and Brandon Cooks, but I built a pretty young roster here. I'm going to go with the upside pick of Gabriel Davis. I know that there's a lot of dissenting opinions about what he does this year, if he does it, if he doesn't. He's got 2 more years in his rookie deal tied to Josh Allen. They basically said, like, he's going to be a starter. I'm not worried about Jamison Crowder. I think that Gabriel Davis could absolutely ball out this year.
Very interesting pick there. Gabriel Davis, somebody certainly we all have our eyes on. He was in my queue. I know that for sure. 806, Chase Claypool. 807, Ezekiel Elliott sighting, ladies and gentlemen, right before Jake Ciely. So no Zeke for you. Who do you take instead,
Yep.
Jake?
Yeah, I was going with Zeke. That's 807.
I figured you were. I've known you long enough.
Hey, look, at this point of his career, but still, wow. So, look, I don't think he's the answer that they expect him to be, and it's clear that he's a timeshare, but he's still the lead of the timeshare. Still only 23 for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'll take him on the upside of that backfield. I don't love it, but I'll take it.
All right. He doesn't love it, but he'll take it. That's under Jake Ciely's Twitter handle, I'm pretty sure. After Jake Ciely takes CEH, Tyler Lockett goes next, followed by Pat Freiermuth, which just pisses me right off. 811, Michael Carter.
I thought about Freiermuth to go tight end again.
Oh, dude. I didn't think you were going to do it. So I was like, I'm going to do it here with one of these 2 picks. It was not meant to be. All right, so now I've got to do a little soul searching here. I've got 30 seconds left on the clock. I would love to have, to be honest with you, I'd love to have an extra quarterback here because they're flying right now. And I know next year's class is supposed to be good, but you know what? I'm going to be boring. I'm going to take Mac Jones as the 3rd one. Yes, you can give me the reach alert. That's fine. Next year, I could go with some running back depth. Do I really want to make that kind of investment? Do I want to waste a pick on a year of no Calvin Ridley? It's a thought, but I'm not exactly sure if I do. I'm going to go Steady Eddie and somebody that I think is going to be very good for the Las Vegas Raiders for the next few years, and it's Hunter Renfrow. So, yeah, I'm doubling up on Vegas. I'm the Vegas team. Jake, what was the team you invested in? The Falcons. Debro, heavily invested in the
Falcons,
Seahawks. Yeah, and then Pat Fitzmaurice heavily invested in the Jets. So clearly we've taken the most elite offenses in football here for this dynasty startup. After I took Renfrow, Brandon Cooks goes next, Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup, Jake Ciely, 905.
All sorts of screwed over here. I was going to go Schultz for a second tight end, and then if not, Brandon Cooks still being on the board. So this is one of those ones when you're in the draft room and your queue just goes, and then you're sitting here thinking, whenever, yeah. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with, I made the joke on draft day, and sorry to the guy who did it, but like I thought that he announced the better wide receiver being picked, and that's George Pickens. I do think everybody's talking about the off-field issues. There is no better head coach in the NFL to handle a situation like that and get the most out of his talent, and I believe that George Pickens, if not for the off-field, would be a top 5 talent in this draft class.
Fair enough. Very nice. Big fan of George Pickens at Georgia. He didn't get to showcase himself quite a bit because, well, they were usually kicking the crap out of some other team and just running the football down their throat, and nobody could score on them, so they didn't have to. After you went ahead and made that selection, James Cook goes at 906. Damian Harris, another player I was contemplating, but again, after this year, he probably gets moved on, so I was a little off of him at 907. 908, Kadarius Toney. That puts you back on the clock. 909, Derek Brown.
There's a lot of different ways I can go. I think the running back tier is pretty flat right now, and there's a bunch of wide receivers, but I think I can wait there. I'm going to address the 3rd quarterback spot. I'm going to go Tua Tagovailoa. If he hits that type of ceiling, has a really good year, obviously is my QB3. It gives me a lot of, at least depth at the position. I could have waited because there's a quarterback that falls in almost every one of these Superflex drafts that I could have grabbed later, but I'll take the plunge on Tua right now.
Davis
I gotta
Mills
tell
is
you,
the
it's
man
getting
back
real
to you.
thin. Yeah, it's getting real thin if you want a younger quarterback at least. I mean, you could go ahead and take Kirk Cousins still on the board, Brady still on the board, Matt Ryan, but it's getting thin. Pat Fitzmaurice at 9-10. Where do you go next with your team?
Well, since you guys have left me the best Dallas Cowboys running back, I'm going to go ahead and take Tony Pollard, who,
Excellent.
I mean, he's been more dynamic than Ezekiel Elliott for the last 2 years. So, yeah, still young, and I think he has a bright future. And maybe he doesn't have that true workhorse potential, but the workhorse thing tends to be a little overrated in fantasy football. They're a rare species these days, as we all know. So. And now I want to go with yet another rookie receiver, and I'm debating between, pure upside or maybe a more finished product. I'm going to go with the upside and indulge my Packer fandom. With Christian Watson, I'm going to make Debro upset. That's a bonus.
This is exactly why I hated the fact that we were right back to back. I knew it was coming.
and I remember Andrew Erickson selling me on him as we watched the wide receivers run together on a company trip in Arizona, and just the combination of size and speed, and seems like a pretty diligent worker and a good kid. So if it pans out for him, catching Aaron Rodgers at the tail end of his career, just a lot of potential here. So shoot for the moon with Watson.
Pat's looking for potential after he took Pollard, Sanders, and Chase Edmonds went. Kenny Pickett started the 10th round, then Dawson Knox. You took Christian Watson, Derek Brown at 10:04. You're up next.
Maybe I'm just stuck, and this is a panic pick, but I'll go with another Christian. I'll go with Christian Kirk. I know we all had a nice chuckle at the Jacksonville Jaguars doling out that massive contract, but the other thing that we're not tying to that is this is a wide receiver that just made it into the 10th round, that we're looking at he's going to get 110 plus targets, 130 maybe from the slot, where Trevor Lawrence needs to sit there and feed the ball because the outside wide receivers are So I'll take the volume upside with Christian Kirk.
Look, man, I don't think that's a joke pick at all. In the 10th round, why not? He's got youth on his side. He's got a potential quarterback to grow along with. Yes, they invested a lot of money, but all the metrics are pointing to the right investment. Now he's just got to translate that onto the field. Kareem Hunt at 10:05, Devin Singletary at 10:06, Noah Fant at 10:07. Interesting pick there. 10:08, Jake Ciely, you are up on the clock.
I was actually going to go Devin Singletary. I think the Cook situations get way overblown, and the fact that, but I'm going to go with a rookie and Rashad White, who is stepping into the immediate backup role, who can see workload every single week to potentially be flex valuable. And even if not, Leonard Fournette, if goes down, guess what? You're on a team that you're going to get top 15 value from, whether or not Tom Brady's there. I mean, we're talking about future bell cow potential if Fournette goes down. So looking at the board, like I said, I would have went Singletary, but Rashad White, definitely a nice backup plan.
You see what I did there?
Nice backup
Very
plan.
good pick there.
Was
Rashad White, then Cole Kmet went, hence my guy, because I was hoping to get him here. So tight end's getting very thin, very, very thin. Jahan Dotson, Calvin Ridley, so that's not going to work for me either. I have 2 picks in a row. I'm going to take another Packer wide receiver. So when everyone's talking about Christian Watson, I'm going to go ahead and take Alan Lazard and see if he pans out right now in case the rookies struggle. That's my plan for that. I'm going to go take some more running back depth with Isaiah Spiller of the Chargers, another rookie.
Good pick.
Running back.
Good pick.
Yeah. Well, once again, can he be flex relevant? Potentially, but Austin Eckler has had some trouble staying on the field of late, and there could be opportunity for more. And they keep looking every year for somebody else to hand some of this workload to, and it's never worked out. I'm hoping Spiller can be that guy, and maybe there's room to grow into more. Ramondre Stevenson goes at 11:02, Rashad Penny 11:03, then James Robinson 11:04. Back to you, Jakey, for 11:05.
Yeah, I'm like debating going back and forth on this one. I don't think I'm going to double down on tight end anymore at this point. There was a couple in that range. Running back, I mean, we're just talking about backups or old backups at this point, and I don't know if I want to go another backup. So I'm going back to wide receiver. He's actually the top on the board, and if Rondale Moore is going to do it, like, now's the opportunity. No more Christian Kirk. There was talk about the position where he fit with Kirk on that team, but Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games. They're going to need him to show what he can do, and if he can show what he can do, even when Hopkins can back, that's the 1 and 2 that you have right there.
All right, there you have it. So after Rondale Moore in the show me moment for Jake Ciely, Odell Beckham at 11:06, then Melvin Gordon at 11:07, Kenneth Gainwell 11:08, Derek Brown, that's you for 11:09.
So the Isaiah Spiller pick hurt, Joe. I just got to say
welcome.
that. I
got him and Sky Moore. You're gonna hate me the rest of the week. It's gonna be.
I already do.
Very difficult in the office between the
Absolutely. Two of us. It's going to be awkward times for us. I'm going to finally address the tight end room. I'm going to go with Alberto at this spot in the draft. Take the upside on an efficient player that we've seen to this point. A tight end's a spot that I'm not usually looking. I'll punt it down the road. I'll get a few different players in here with my roster. So this is about the area where I look to start, like, just kind of gobble up some tight ends, the 11th round to 13th round range. Grab 2 guys and play matchups.
All right, playing matchups with Albert O. Pat Fitzmaurice, 11-10. Who's next for you?
Yeah, Debro is going to make me kick tight end down the road after taking the guy in my sights set on. So I'm going to have to go in a different direction. A little off the beaten path here, but the Raiders did not choose to extend the 5th-year option on Josh Jacobs. So they kind of cleared the deck for Zamir White to maybe come in and be their early down guy next year. So kind of a flyer, but I'm going with Zamir White.
All right, Zamir White, then rookie Dameon Pierce goes 11-11. Alexander Madison, 11-12. Khalil Herbert, I was hoping he might make it to me. Not so much. Darrell Henderson at 12-02. Pat Fitzmaurice, we're in the 12th round for the 3rd pick, and that one's yours.
I was taking Herbert.
Well, then I knew he wasn't really going to make it to me at all. There you go. Pat, you're up.
All right. The situation is not real great for him. I didn't like the landing spot at all, but I'm going to take a bet on the talent with Trey McBride. Basically blocked behind Zach Ertz. I see something close to a red shirt freshman year in the NFL coming for him, and goes to a coach that hasn't used tight ends extensively in the past, but I just like the player a lot here. So Trey McBride.
All right. Going with the gut, Trey McBride at 12-03. Derek Brown, what is your gut telling you?
So, considering we have a condensed kind of format here, we're not going the 26 rounds deep. I could have waited on this guy. I'll probably get the reach alert here. But looking at the running back upside, a guy that went in the 3rd round, I have him higher in my ranks than a lot of other people because I think that it's just the shell shock of Trey Sermon nightmares. I'll take Tyrion Davis-Price for the same reasons why you went with Spiller. I think that he could have a role from week 1 if he takes over the backfield because I don't think Elijah Mitchell has this sewn up. If he takes over the backfield or grabs the goal line touches in this offense, he's going to gain equity. If that's the case, I could easily flip him in a trade if I chose to as well.
All right, Derek Brown is ignoring what Shanahan says out of his mouth, instead looking at what he does every year, which is trade running backs for different guys every year, running the football just like his daddy used to do. Naeem Hines goes at 12-05. That's a curious pick. 12-06, Ronald Jones. Then 12-07, Kirk Cousins. Fantastic value on a 3rd quarterback. Jake Ciely, 12-08. Where are you going?
Yeah. As Algier on there, can I get more Falcons? So at this
he
point...
is available. He's in my queue.
Actually, is Dameon Pierce there? I can't find Dameon Pierce. Did he go?
I think he went.
He went a little while ago.
He went,
Well,
yeah,
then-
11-11.
Last round.
All right.
Yep.
Well, then I'll go to a different running back. I'll go Brian Robinson. I don't think he's anything more than Antonio Gibson's backup. I think he's the clear answer to the fact that they don't believe Jarrett Patterson's the true backup and McKissick's going to have his role. But this is just more of like Antonio Gibson. He might just be rookie contract and done with the Commanders. So I like Brian Robinson and potential 3-down value. Oh, there's Algier. He finally populated. Finally
Algier's there. But also
by the way, I think my
Patterson.
roster needs a fake ID just to buy alcohol at this point.
Well, it is Dynasty, so you're going to be really good maybe in 4 years. Tom
Yes.
Brady goes next after you pick, then Cordero Patterson, Sony Michel. That puts me back on the clock here. So looking around, there's 2 guys here, so I'm going to just draft them both that I think have potential at the tight end position because I have none. So I'm just going to clean the deck here. I'm going to take David Njoku with one of these picks. If it's not this year, it ain't going to happen. And then coming back from ACL surgery, I'm going to take Logan Thomas as well. I'm a fan of Logan Thomas, always have been. I think this is his opportunity. Both these guys have a unique, fresh start with new quarterbacks. I'm hoping that one pans out, and if both pan out, that's terrific. One becomes trade fodder, but they're both relatively young still. So I think just grabbing both those guys here, plenty of other dudes out there that I can take. I could have taken Zach Ertz, but again, I don't know how much longer he's going to be around and useful. I'd rather take a shot here or take 2 and see what works out. Zach Wilson at 1302, David Bell at 1303, Ryan Tannehill 1304. Jakey, you're up again for 1305.
Yeah, I'm going with my 3rd quarterback, and I'm going pure potential. Somebody I do not believe should have fallen as far as he did in the NFL draft. Probably shouldn't start this year, but that's the good thing because he doesn't need to with Ryan Tannehill in front of him. Let him develop under Tannehill, by the way, who has 0 to worry about contract-wise for the Titans next year when they potentially move on. And you're talking about Jalen Hurts, I see as potentially his floor with the ability to be a top 5 quarterback. I'm going Malik Willis just on pure upside and the fact that I potentially got a gem. And I can wait. I have the luxury with my top 2 quarterbacks being Herbert and Lawrence to not have to go and say, oh, I need a safe third.
Look, I think you definitely are good taking that shot there. And again, looking at your roster, I mean, you could be awesome in a couple years. We'll see how that works out.
Well, talk to me in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna do. You and MJF. I'll talk to you guys in 2024. All right. After you take Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder goes next at 1306. Then Davis Mills goes at 1307. Robert Woods at 1308. Nice value there if he bounces back. 1309. Irv Smith goes to Derek Brown. Derek, talk to us about this selection here.
So this is one of the tight ends, or at least a grouping of Irv Smith, Cole Kmet, Alberto, a lot of guys, and David Njoku, Joe, that have upside this year, can obviously gain equity in dynasty circles. Those are kind of the mid to late round tight ends that I'm gobbling up right now. So I'll just take Irv and round out the room. If I wouldn't have gone with Tua earlier, the quarterback that I keep getting in almost every Superflex startup right now is Matt Ryan. Like he's still on the board right now. He's being left for dead in an improved situation, improved offense, and you can get him right now, and he's going to play for at least probably the next 2 years. So a lot of different ways I could go with this one, but I went with Irv.
All right. That goes to you now, Pat Fitzmaurice. Who was your last selection here?
Well, I'm going to continue to leave Matt Ryan for dead. And I feel strangely optimistic about Daniel Jones. And I'm not sure I should. Maybe Jake would try to talk me out of that. But no, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. And I don't think they could with the non-accomplishment he's had in the NFL to this point. But good situation now with Brian Daboll. They've invested in the offensive line. They've invested in the weapons around him. If that receiving core can stay healthy, big if, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Darius Slayton. So, they're weapons for him. He runs, and he is now playing for a coach who guided Josh Allen to become the 101 in this Dynasty startup draft. So,
sure.
I'm not writing off Daniel Jones just yet, and as a 3rd quarterback, I like him just fine.
Matt Ryan went right after him to Team 11, and then Matt Corral went to Team 12. Now, again, we did an abbreviated version, as Derek was alluding to, just for time today, but I'm sure there's going to be more of these to come, so just pay attention to when we have a little bit more time to go deeper into the benches. But the one takeaway, too, a lot of wide receiver talent still out there, a lot of veteran wide receiver talent as well. We're talking the Adam Thielens, the Devontae Parkers of the world. There's a lot of guys you could fill in, and this is why, Jake, when you're doing the Dynasty startup, I'm going to be aggressive on Sky Moore. I'm going to be aggressive on Jameson Williams, the guys I believe in, because typically in the Dynasty startups, the guys like Adam Thielen, who might have a year or two left ahead of them, or some of those other wide receivers in that same age range, you could typically get them later because they tend to be the guys that fall most significantly.
100%. I mean, you can go down to like if Daniel Jones is going to bounce back, Kenny Galladay might bounce back, although I'd never liked their fit together. But DJ Chark, Russell Gage, and Chris Godwin's situation. Tim Patrick's still out there, and he's still young in their 3rd wide receiver. Van Jefferson. I mean, just like as you said, you can go down the list. I love some Terrace Marshall in Dynasty. I think people are forgetting how talented he is, and his biggest issue was that he was too lazy with his work ethic and routes coming out of Marquise Lee. He's so much more dominant than everybody else. He was just kind of lazy. He needs coaching, but there's just a lot of talent on the board, and I think that's why what you said is you're going to be more aggressive. That's the smart way to get it. Running back is obviously the issue though right now because it is gross. Although Algier is still there.
Yeah. Oh, and that was absolutely a pick out there that I think might have floated a little too long, but we shall see. At the end of the day, the Draft Wizard did not care for my work whatsoever. It failed me. I'm a failure.
It didn't like any of ours, but it liked mine the best of all of ours.
Yes, it liked Jake the best because he's clearly
of the worst. I was the best of the worst. That's my life.
You're the best of the worst. So it scored you as 9th, Pat Fitzmaurice as 10th, Derek Brown at 11th, and me at 12th. It told me that I reached for Sky Moore in the 7th round. I'm okay with that. And then I reached for Alan Lazard. I'm okay with that as well. these are things you just have to worry about. Hot take, it says Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros likes my draft more than any other expert. So that's all I needed to hear.
Oh, really?
And Derek Brown, I'm not surprised by that because I feel like I got a couple of your dudes. If I had taken Drake London too, you might not speak to me on Slack for a whole week.
You got a lot of guys that I love in Dynasty right now. I mean, between Sky, David Njoku, and a few of the other picks, Joe. Yeah, obviously we talked too much on Slack, apparently.
Too. Yeah,
yep, that too.
There you go. So Derek Brown likes my draft. Let's Jake, if you wouldn't mind, if you can look at your analysis there on the right, it gives you the draft insights.
Yes.
And if you pick about expert opinions, it also tells you who gives you a thumbs up. So for instance, on mine, Derek Brown gave me a thumbs up. Jeff Bell, I gave myself a thumbs up because, of course, I'm an egomaniac. Andrew Erickson also gave me a thumbs up, so that's nice.
Nice.
But Scott Engel and Scott Bogman and anyone named Scott did not like my draft. So our own host, Scott Bogman, my good friend, host of the Fantasy Pros Dynasty podcast, did not like my draft. So we'll have words. Jake, now that you've had some time to locate the expert opinions, who liked and disliked your draft?
Bruce Mattson was the number one that liked mine the most. Some guy named Pat Fitzmaurice. No, I'm just kidding. You're not there. So the site rankings from Full Time Fantasy. Mike Mayer of Fantasy Pros. So there you go. Tyler Orginski. And number 5, the smartest man in the room, Derek Brown. Liked my draft more than anybody else, obviously. So clearly he's smarter than you two. But I will say, Scott Engel also hated mine as well. Number 1. Scott Engel's just got beef with us, apparently.
Well, it dates back for many years. So how about you, Pat Fitzmaurice, when you're looking ahead? Who liked your draft, and did you like your own?
I liked my own. Will you skip to? I accidentally closed my draft.
No worries. We'll skip to you,
for now.
Brown. We'll get to Derek Brown's insights. Give us some insights on your insights, Derek Brown.
So apparently I like my draft the most out of anybody, 86 out of 100. So apparently I'm not lying to people. I'm sticking to my board here, but a few of the people rolling down here, Jeff Lambert liked my draft. Some schmo called Pat Fitzmaurice liked my draft. Tommy Garrett liked my draft. Apparently Boggs and I need to have more words in the weekly Discord stages that he does because he hated my draft. So we got to talk.
All right. Pat, are you ready to talk about your roster and what you had on it? You want me to run through it for you?
Yeah, why don't you run through it, then I'll tell you who liked it and who didn't.
Okay, very good. So Kyler Murray is the QB one that you took. Your running backs are Breece Hall and Tony Pollard. Then after that, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Trey McBride. Lots of Treys. Whole lot of Treys going on in Treylons. Then you had Brandon Ayuk as your flex, your super flex, Deshaun Watson. Very strong pickup there. I love the aggressiveness. The bench was Juju Smith-Schuster, Daniel Jones, Christian Watson, Zamir White. Again, we did abbreviated benches for time today. How do you feel about this roster, and how do other people feel about it, Pat?
I feel pretty good. I mean, I'm never trying to win a dynasty startup in year one. Some people like to take the shortcuts, and it is easy if you're willing to sacrifice youth to get the guys like Adam Thielen a little bit earlier than some people are. Those guys are bargains in startups. So, but I always do like to build for the future a little bit. So that was kind of the plan here. I'm not going to win it in year one, but maybe I'm ready there at the doorstep in year 2 or year 3. So the guys who liked it were Bruce Mattson of Dynasty League Football. Pat Fitzmaurice liked this draft, not surprisingly.
Stay on brand.
Yeah. Francisco Chato Romero, Richard Cooling, and Chris Kennedy all gave me decent marks. And then the big thumbs down from Scott Engel. There he is again.
Yeah,
Scott keeps us all. Everybody.
Jorge B. Edwards, Guilherme Gianni, Ellis Johnson, and Austin Lee all gave me a big thumbs
down. All right,
down.
so they're not big fans of yours. Jake Ciely, let's run down your roster real quick. Your quarterbacks are Justin Herbert and you have Trevor Lawrence here. So doesn't get too much better than that in terms of young quarterback play. Then you took Saquon Barkley because you hate yourself. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at RB2. Your wide receivers, mixed bag here. You got some veterans and some youth. Mike Evans, Drake London, Jameson Williams. Then you've got Kyle Pitts, your flex spot. You had Rashad White, Malik Willis on the bench with George Pickens, Rondale Moore, and Brian Robinson. I think this turned out pretty good for you, Jake. I know why you're the best of the worst. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I do like the team a lot. I was looking at the pick analysis that Fantasy Pros has where you can swap out to see if you would have made these picks instead. I didn't like any of the suggestions for swapping out Herbert because most of them are swapping out Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, and we had the discussion. But I did like the fact that if I went Brees Hall at 3-5 instead of Lawrence and ended up with Zach Wilson instead of Brian Robinson, I would have liked that team better, honestly, because it was Brees Hall and Barkley, Wilson at my Superflex instead of Lawrence. I don't think it's as big as a drop-off as that what Brees Hall would have brought me. So I like that. I like that feature on the site. Even with that, I do like my roster. Is it a guaranteed contender this year? Probably not. Is it going to be at least in the top half? I'd say so, but I think the next few years are looking great.
Yeah, it's certainly looking good. Let's go through Derek Brown's roster. Started with Lamar Jackson as his QB, Superflex League. So Dak Prescott is the second one. The running backs are Ken Walker the third, James Conner, then DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, some young but already ingrained in the league guys, which I think is a really cool thing. I want you to talk about that in a second, Derek. Albert O is your tight end. Gabriel Davis is the flex. Then the bench is Tua, Christian Kirk, Irv Smith, and Tyrion David Price. So, look, how do you feel about this wide receiving core specifically? Because I think he did a really nice job here, Derek, of finding these guys that are not rookies, but still young enough that they could be fantastic dynasty investments over the next 3 to 4 year window.
I mean, a lot of this is just a perfect shadow of like how I usually build dynasty rosters. I mean, right now in the team strengths for quarterback and Superflex, I'm number 4 and number 3. My wide receiver 2 and 3s are number 6. Across the board, I took upshot swings or upside swings or value swings in the sense of like, I think that James Conner is being underrated as far as a dynasty running back. The wide receivers, these are guys and how I attack dynasty startups that I think can gain equity over the upcoming season, like Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman, like I talked about, Gabriel Davis. So this is usually how I'm approaching dynasty startups. I want a lot of wide receivers. I want to build the quarterback room to be really strong because I don't want to go out there and pay the price for quarterbacks and Superflex. Like, nobody wants to do that. So get them in startups or get them in rookie drafts.
There you have it. All right, Jake, since you're the best of the worst, we'll have to value your opinion on my team. I started off with Josh Allen, my second quarterback, Russell Wilson. On the bench is Mac Jones. The running backs, Travis Etienne, A.J. Dillon, and then the wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Sky Moore, Hunter Renfrow at the flex. Then the tight ends, David Njoku, Logan Thomas, Isaiah Spiller on the bench, along with Alan Lazard. Your thoughts? Break it down for us, Jake.
Yeah, I'd say the only way that I would have went different for your team, I think it's a solid team, is just the Russell Wilson pick kind of left you in the lurch of Russell Wilson better still have another 3 or 4 years left. If he does, you're great. And there's certainly a potential. I mean, we've seen Russell Wilson back as a top 10 quarterback. I think everybody's assuming that's just going to happen being with Denver. But what if the non-running version of the Russell Wilson is the new Russell Wilson and it's reliant mostly on his arm? That pick kind of left you with either Adams is great. I think that he's being undervalued because people are worried about getting young. I'm with you on that. I think ETN could be great, but Dillon as the number 2 with Wilson, that's where I'm a little bit more, as I think that backfield is potentially a split forever. But I don't dislike your team. I just think that you're open. Put it this way. If I had your team, I'd be trying to get like an extra pick or 2 for next year, just because I feel like this could be either a third place team or you could be potentially blowing up half of it in next year's draft. Like, I think you have a high variance.
It's very possible. There you go. Very Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. And, you play hard. And that's how you would play. Come on. There's take no prisoners here over in the Fantasy Pros. Thank you very much for breaking down my team and doing it so gently too, Jake. I appreciate it.
I love the Isaiah Spiller pick, by the way. I think he's one of the most disrespected running backs in this draft.
Very disrespected. And look,
Absolutely.
I think Russell Wilson's going to have a nice little renaissance here and and surprise everybody. And I think people are undervaluing him. Look, man, at the end of the day, this is the perfect opportunity. He's got a lot of guys to throw the football to, and he's got a lot to prove. So I'm going to put stock in those kind of guys that aren't that old yet. I think he's got a lot more football ahead of him. But if you've got more football ahead of you and you want to start running some of these drafts, make sure you head over to fantasypros.com/draftwizard, where you can run any sort of draft simulation you want. We have our mock draft lobby available too, so you can jump into a mock with other people. You can create your own and then send it to your friends or your enemies or your frenemies and do some mock drafts, because it's never too soon to get prepared for the fantasy football season. And of course, part of that preparation is being a a subscriber to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros, where you can go ahead and subscribe, click that little bell for notifications, and enjoy all the amazing content, all the podcasts, all the long-term videos, the short-term videos, the big Fantasy Football Fest over this summer. There's so many things going to be going on, plus all of the great in-season content we offer you here. Some fantastic work going there on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hang out and spend some more quality time with Scott Bogman and Pat Fitzmaurice on the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. Wherever you get your pods, these boys are breaking down all the incredible content for you. Every Wednesday, I believe, is when the show comes out, and these guys break it all down from a Dynasty perspective, the best in the business. So subscribe to that and support the team here. Jake Ciely, you can follow him at All In Kid. Check out his work at The Athletic. And also, you can get dating advice from Jake as well. Jake, congratulations once again.
I wore this just for you, Joe.
I can barely see it. It's because we're in the smaller
8-bit
box.
version Sweet Chin music.
You do know the way to my heart, Jake. You really do. So, Jake, what sort of links are you dropping for people to check nowadays?
I just started my breakout series, which I've been doing every single year. Last week was quarterbacks. This week's running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Breakouts every single year. I nailed the top 2 quarterbacks last year. Boom. So there you go. So make sure you're checking that out. Those are the links that are coming now. And then, of course, you know what you said. I drop all the links on check the link. We didn't say that the entire show.
Well, we just did. So we fulfilled the obligation.
That originates with you and Corey Parson was where check the link came from. So,
oh my God, it's a long period. It's a long time ago. Many moons. Derek Brown, how about you? What are you working on these days here, my friend?
Babies.
Oh.
Off the rails again. Good Lord.
For Derek Brown.
Oh, man. Says the person with a newfound girlfriend. But anyway, yeah, look, I'm diving through all of our player notes for Fantasy Pros. So if you're looking at rankings, you want to know what my thoughts are on a lot of different players, head over, check out the Dynasty rankings, half PPR, all the different formats, or if you're diving into the best ball streets, all my player notes are right there, as well as I just came out with Dynasty values for all 32 NFL teams. So if you're looking to make trades, players to target, a lot of them are on this team that we just went through. Check out the article and you're going to find out guys that I'm obviously way higher on than maybe consensus, or I just think they're a value grab in Dynasty right now.
And Fitz, this week on the Dynasty Pod, the topic is players you want to acquire. Am I correct in saying that? So that sounds like it's going to be a good time.
Yes, sir. It should be. Guys maybe who are a little undervalued in the eyes of Scott Bogman and myself and our guest, Andrew Seifter.
I don't care what is in Scott Bogman's eyes after he disliked my draft. I'm going to go text him right after this show is over. We hope you all enjoyed the show today, and we've got another mock draft. This one's not going to be Dynasty, but we got another mock draft episode coming for you later in the week. And again, if you're listening to the pod and you want to watch the draft board unfold yourself, then go ahead and head to our YouTube channel. In the meantime, that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on for Derek Brown, Pat Fitzmaurice, and of course, the one, the only, the one in my heart, Jake Ciely. That'll do it for us. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.